On January 21, 1983, the Soviet nuclear submarine K-10 was operating in the South China Sea. While submerged, the vessel suddenly collided with an unknown object. The crew felt a powerful jolt that shook the entire hull. According to the recollections of the commander, Captain Valery Medvedev, it felt as though K-10 had become entangled with another object and that they were moving together for some time. At 21:30, the submarine surfaced. The crew reported observing strange flashing lights in the distance, which appeared to belong to the unidentified object. Upon returning to base, naval specialists examined the severely damaged bow and discovered a foreign metallic fragment embedded in the hull, seemingly a remnant of the mysterious craft. 2 years later, an article in the Chinese press mentioned the loss of a Chinese submarine carrying a large group of scientists in the South China Sea in January 1983. K-10 was part of the Project 675 class of submarines. Its design was highly unusual. Cruise missiles were installed in vertical launch containers that had to be raised into position before firing. Due to this mechanism, Soviet sailors nicknamed the K-10 the folding bed. The loud creaking sounds it made during missile deployment earned it another nickname, the roaring cow. Despite its noise, submarines of this class were capable of entering the Mediterranean undetected, even through the narrow Strait of Gibraltar. Interestingly, the Project 675 submarines, though noisy by modern standards, were a critical part of Soviet naval strategy during the 1970s and early 1980s. Their long-range missiles could be launched while the sub remained hidden beyond the horizon, something few other navies could match at the time. K-10 was powered by 2 VMA water-cooled nuclear reactors, using highly enriched uranium dioxide, U-235, as fuel. It was armed with P-6 cruise missiles, capable at hitting surface vessels beyond radar range. These missiles were considered highly advanced, fast, precise, and nearly impossible to intercept with conventional artillery. Their powerful warheads could destroy even the largest warships at long distances. That night, K-10 was performing routine operations when it entered a designated patrol area. As a precaution, Commander Medvedev ordered the crew to turn and inspect the submarine's dead zone, the blind spot behind the vessel where sonar could not detect objects due to the distortion caused by the propeller's wake. American submarines were known to exploit this dead zone, trailing Soviet submarines closely while remaining undetected. To counter this, Soviet commanders frequently executed sharp, unpredictable course changes, a maneuver NATO forces nicknamed Crazy Ivan. This risky maneuver often caught trailing submarines by surprise. During such a maneuver, K-10 suddenly experienced a violent impact. The submarine had apparently become locked with another object, moving together with it. An emergency alarm was declared. The first 3 compartments were sealed. Radio contact with the first compartment was lost, causing panic. Eventually, the crew re-established communication and reported that the compartment was intact. The submarine surfaced, and through the periscope, Commander Medvedev attempted to observe the sea. He saw nothing unusual, but upon returning to the area of the collision, the crew observed strange orange flashing lights that persisted for 40 minutes. These lights were confirmed by both the navigator and signalmen. Following the incident, K-10 was ordered to proceed immediately to the Cam Ranh Bay military base in Vietnam. At the time, Cam Ranh was one of the largest Soviet naval facilities outside the USSR, offering strategic control over the South China Sea and surrounding areas. The submarine was escorted by the anti-submarine ship Petropavlovsk. Upon arrival, a boat carrying a special commission and divers met them. The crew was ordered to remain on board. Inspectors documented severe damage to the submarine's bow. The impact had sheared metal cleanly, as if sliced by a razor. Embedded in the hull was a foreign metallic fragment, presumed to belong to the unknown object. When K-10 returned to Pavlovsk, the damaged torpedo tubes, which contained nuclear warheads, were removed and confiscated by a special department. Crew logs, including those of the main reactor systems, were seized. The investigation concluded that K-10 had exceeded its assigned speed, which led to an early arrival in the patrol zone, several hours ahead of schedule. Entering the duty area early was strictly prohibited, so the submarine circled the perimeter until the moment of the collision. In later years, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, Medvedev gave an interview in which he stated his belief that K-10 had collided with a Chinese submarine. Back in 1959, the Soviet Union had transferred technical documentation for Project 629, a class of diesel-electric ballistic missile submarines, to China. The first Chinese-built submarine in this class was laid down in Dalian in 1960 and assigned the hull number 200. Another submarine, built in Komsomolsk on Amur, was transferred to China in 1962 and given the number 208. In 1985, an obituary in the Chinese press quietly noted the deaths of a large group of scientists aboard a submarine during ballistic missile tests in 1982. According to Medvedev, the submarine involved in the collision carried the number 208, but China never officially acknowledged the loss of a submarine or any connection to K-10. Interestingly, Soviet sonar technology, though formidable in certain applications, still lagged behind American passive sonar systems, which made Soviet submarines more vulnerable to being trailed undetected. One of the many quiet, high-stakes dangers of the Cold War undersea cat-and-mouse games. To this day, the true identity of the object that collided with K-10 remains unknown, a Cold War mystery that continues to intrigue historians and naval analysts alike. What if Soviet air defenses failed to intercept some incoming ICBMs? What if multiple strikes destroyed the General Staff, the Ministry of Defense, air bases, naval installations, and missile command centers? What if cities housing industrial military complexes were turned to ash? What if no one was left alive to push the button? That's where Perimeter took over. It was designed to strike back automatically without human intervention. The system was fully autonomous, powered by artificial intelligence that constantly monitored the entire country for signs of a nuclear attack. Mobile and stationary control centers gathered data in real time, scanning radiation levels, temperature changes, seismic activity, electromagnetic pulses, and ionizing radiation. A sudden spike in seismic activity, accompanied by a radiation surge, was considered a strong indicator of a nuclear detonation. The system also monitored military communication frequencies, analyzing the volume and nature of radio traffic. If all communications went silent, if no humans responded, Perimeter would assume the worst. Before launching retaliation, the system checked 4 things. First, did sensors confirm signs of a nuclear strike? Second, could it establish contact with the General Staff? If not, third, it would try to reach the Kazbek command system. And if even Kazbek was silent, it would reach out to deep underground bunkers in hopes of finding surviving officers. If there was still no response, no sign of life or command, the system would activate the launch of all remaining nuclear warheads. There was also a second use case. If military leaders detected a launch of foreign ballistic missiles, the Perimeter system could be placed on high alert. If a counter order didn't arrive within a set time, the system would assume the top leadership was dead and begin the retaliation process. The Soviet Union had created the ultimate failsafe, a doomsday device capable of destroying the enemy even from beyond the grave. In response, the United States developed its own version of this concept, Project Looking Glass, operational by 1961. Unlike Perimeter, the American system relied on specially equipped Boeing aircraft, which functioned as airborne command posts. 11 of these planes were constantly in the sky, flying over the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans on rotating shifts. Onboard operators had full control over America's nuclear arsenal. If all ground-based command posts were destroyed in a surprise strike, the aircraft crews could still issue retaliatory orders. The Cold War was not just a geopolitical standoff. It was a time of terrifying technological brinkmanship. One such moment was the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962, when the world came within hours of nuclear war. After the fall of the Soviet Union, global tensions eased, and many hoped the age of Cold War paranoia had finally ended. But to this day, systems like Perimeter still raise difficult questions about how close we came to Armageddon, and how little the world knew about the machines built to end it. Even today, it may still exist. While the system was reportedly dismantled after the Cold War, there are unconfirmed reports that a modernized version, sometimes referred to as Perimeter RT, may still be active in the Russian Federation. Command missile codename 15A11. The specially designed command missile had the internal designation 15A11 and was launched from a modified version of the R-36 ICBM. It was equipped not with a warhead, but with high-powered transmitters. Part of the system was buried underground. Deep command bunkers, such as those beneath Mount Yamantau, were built to house parts of the system, ensuring it would remain operational even after a direct strike. The system was kept secret for decades. Until the 1990s, the existence of Perimeter was denied by Soviet and Russian authorities. Only after the collapse of the Soviet Union did information slowly emerge, and even today, much of it remains classified. The red button was a symbolic myth. Contrary to popular belief, there was no single red button that launched missiles. Instead, a series of encrypted codes and authorizations had to be verified in sequence, and Perimeter automated this entire process if no humans remained to do so.
Please don't forget to subscribe or write a comment and put a bell so as not to miss new videos. Thanks for watching.